So today I am finally filming a video that I've been planning on filming for a long time, and that is my book-to-movie comparison of The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. I finally got around to reading this book. I know there are many people out there that love it, there are some people that hate it, and so there are a lot of reviews out there, and I figured it's been done. I really want to focus on the movie that came out semi-recently and how it compares to the book that everybody or most people seem to love so much. There is a possibility for some spoilers in here. I'm not going to go totally spoilery, but there'll probably be little things that you might not want to know, so just be cautious. As you may or may not know, this book is narrated by Death. Death is a character. He has a very interesting personality in this book, and Death introduces us to this young girl named Liesel who is living in Germany during the beginning and throughout World War II. There's a lot of stuff going on in this story, and that would definitely pose a challenge when you're trying to take this 550-page book and make it into a movie. Liesel is a young girl when this book begins, and she's just lost her brother on this trip that they were taking to arrive with her new foster family. So she shows up, she's already been through this traumatic event, and she's already stolen her first book, this Gravedigger's Handbook. Although the book thief title is applied to Liesel, I certainly wouldn't always call her a book thief. She is many other things. Most of these characters are multifaceted. There's a lot of different stories happening, not just with Liesel, but Rudy has his own things going on. He's a young boy, Liesel's best friend, but he loves running. He wants to be the next Jesse Owens. And then you have her father, who is a World War I vet, and he doesn't really want to be part of the Nazi party. He doesn't believe in a lot of their ideals, but he feels forced, otherwise they're not going to make any money. And then we have Rosa, who's Liesel's foster mom, and although she comes off as very cross and mean, she actually has a very big heart. And of course you can't forget about Max, the young Jewish man who is living in the Uberman's basement. And so you have these 5 characters that we focus on, but there are many others: the mayor, the mayor's wife, other children that Liesel and Rudy are friends with, and they all come together in this story that is playing out in the backdrop of World War II, which is a huge event in itself. Even though I was originally hesitant to pick up this book because I wasn't sure how I was going to like the style that it was written, I actually found it quite enjoyable. I got into it, and I did feel emotionally invested in these character stories. I am not a die-hard fan of the book by any means. I ended up giving it 4 stars, but it's closer to 4.5 stars, so it's definitely a good book. I did enjoy my experience with it. So going into the movie, I was hoping they would do a pretty good job with it. And a lot of times with movies, because the action is right in front of you, you see characters reacting, characters crying, being joyful, etc. You feel much more emotion, sometimes, not always. In this case, I did feel a bit more emotion with the book. So let's talk a little bit about the movie and why that is. The movie doesn't really have a ton of huge actors. The actor who plays Liesel, the actor who plays Rudy, the actor who plays Max, I've never seen them in anything before. Jeffrey Rush and Emily Watson play Hans and Rosa Uberman, Liesel's foster parents, and they're about the only actors I'm pretty sure that I recognize in the entire movie. So it certainly wasn't a huge, big budget affair with all of these famous actors. I feel like it was more about taking this book and making it into a poignant movie. The movie does open with Death narrating, but he rarely makes appearances. He is constantly popping up in the book, making observations, making funny comments, and sort of teaching you things about what's going on during that time period, which I think is very helpful if you're a younger reader and you don't know a lot about World War II. I just found it enjoyable, but it could be very useful as a teaching tool for some people, whereas in the movie, he only narrates a few times. There's no dark humor like there is in the book, no fun little factoids about World War II and Germany at that time, and I really did miss that. I came to enjoy it in the books. A lot of times it was very well done when Death would sort of poke in, see like, hey, this is what's going on around Liesel maybe, or hint, this is actually coming up in the book, sorry to spoil you. Little things like that, which made it more fun to read. That was definitely lacking in the movie. As with any book-to-movie adaptation, certain things have to be cut. This is a long book. There were many little things that were missing. Some of them more important than others, but some examples of things that did not happen in the movie. When Liesel first arrives at her foster parents' house, she has a lot of nightmares just because of the events that have happened so far to her, and she wakes up a lot during the night, and her foster father Hans comes in to sort of make her feel better, and that's when he discovers this book, this gravedigger's handbook that she stole after her brother died and had to be buried, and they end up reading it together and spending many, many nights awake till the wee hours of the morning, and he's teaching Liesel how to read because Liesel's never actually learned how, and that whole aspect of it was missing, that whole nightmare late night thing. If you hadn't read the book, you would have had no idea that it happened like that. In the movie, he just sort of finds her clutching this book one night. It still moved the plot forward and got to where we were supposed to be, where he's teaching her how to read and they're writing words on the wall in the basement. But Liesel didn't seem as distressed as she was in the book. In the book, you could tell she was upset, she was scarred by what happened, whereas in the movie, you really didn't feel that. Rudy and Liesel are part of this gang of kids that steal things once it starts getting harder and harder to find food. None of that happened. She never read to the neighbor whose sons were off fighting in the war. That never happened either. I read the book a couple weeks ago now, so maybe everything isn't as fresh in my mind, but there were certain points where I was like, wait, that didn't happen like that, did it? The movie felt a lot less rich. I know that the movie shouldn't be an exciting action thriller, but there were little things that made me enjoy the book, such as Death's quirky narrations and the kids running around and stealing things. Like, that's fun, and it wasn't included in the movie, so the movie just felt like it was very focused on this one thing. And even when Max comes into the story, I just didn't feel the connection with them as much as I did in the book. I don't think it was because the actors were bad actors or anything. It's just how it played out on screen. I just didn't feel it the way I felt it with the book. So to sort of wrap up what I've been saying here, the book has a certain richness and deepness to it that I felt was lacking in the movie. They're both trying to accomplish the same thing. They're both telling the same story at its core, and some of the lines are even exactly the same, but I just felt like the book did a much better job of bringing you into this world and making you feel something for these characters, whereas the movie, I was like kind of almost wanted it to just be over. It's a little over 2 hours long, and by the end of those 2 hours, I was definitely ready for it to be done. I did give the book 4 stars, which is more closer to like 4.5 stars, honestly, whereas the movie is probably 2.5 stars. Not that I really should be rating movies because I don't really understand cinema. I know many of you have read the book, so feel free to share your feelings on it down below. And for those of you that have also seen the movie, please let me know what you thought of that, maybe how it compared to the book from your perspective down below. As always, all of our links are in the doobly-doo. Check those out if you feel so inclined. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you later.